my name is Pavan Davra, and welcome to Precious Brain Lab, where we talk on brain disorders, brain connectivity, and brain development. In today's episode, we're going to understand and unfold the part of ADHD and why ADHD is so difficult to treat, as much as we'll try to understand why is it so difficult to focus and do things, and especially when we talk on terms of medications like Ritalin, Vyvanse, and the others, which are absolutely dangerous for the body and for the brain as well. It is not so advisable that you should be highly dependent on medications, because I'm not so expert in those kinds of medications. But yes, when it comes to neuroscience and I'm trying to understand these functions, they might help you in some way, but they're not completely true. And logically, these medications come with a lot of side effects. So in today's episode, we're going to unfold all of this in terms of neuroscience. And I want you to understand what exactly neuroscience has to offer in terms of treating ADHD. Since ADHD has been a serious issue, people who are with a significant problem, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, this is actually reality, or there is something more to this, because this time we're going to dissect everything from inside, and I'll make you realize what exactly ADHD is. So to begin with, I'd like to introduce, talk on the introduction part of ADHD. And so what ADHD has to say in terms of what exactly it is, let us find out. So as you can see, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, a prevalent neurodevelopment disorder, has been associated with various structural and functional CNS abnormalities. Absolutely right. I totally agree with this, because this is not just about, I cannot pay attention and I cannot do this, No, it's not like that. There's something more to this. If the parents are ADHD, then the child is also going to have ADHD. That is true. Genetic modification happening in these conditions. And that is why ADHD is so difficult to treat. And more or less, if you see, ADHD can impact not only school performance, but also social interaction. Yes. And you must have seen an ADHD child and you say like, wow, are you listening to me? I'm talking to you. Why are you not paying attention? And why are you doing this? You want to make me suffer, which is why you're doing these kind of acts. And then the ADHD child says, I'm trying my best, but I can't concentrate. How many times has this happened? And what do we need to understand in terms of ADHD? Because we are going to be seriously diving deep into this. Not only this, but I'm going to explain to you on medications as well. So all of it is going to be covered in this video. I've not left anything out, because my job is to make a better understanding towards what is happening to you inside. That inner part is where you need to understand. Even if you are, as a parent, watching this for your kids, no problem. And then you'll understand why the kid is suffering so hard. Isn't it? You should know everything. If somebody goes to a doctor and someone says like, my son has, he doesn't pay attention, and they evaluate and they say, oh, your son has ADHD. Then what happens? Then the doctor will give you some medications and he'll be all okay. But that's not going to happen here, because that concern is not everything. Do the doctors talk in depth? No, this video will. And that's why I'm requesting you watch this video. Try and understand what ADHD is. And then you'll know how to treat your child. So, one of the main factors of ADHD is, if we understood the sections of what exactly ADHD is, we talked about that it's more towards the abnormalities found in the CNS. So if the CNS is involved, then there's something more to it as well. CNS means genetics. You know, let's just put it that way. I'm not going to just say like, you know, just like central nervous system. Central nervous system means we also link to genetics, which is why I'm saying that let's try even more on this. What else we can understand in terms of ADHD? Research on ADHD has focused on catecholaminergic pathways. Catecholaminergic pathways, sorry. The main target of pharmacology treatment, catecholamine system. If there is an abnormalities found, then they pick up on catecholamine pathways. The main target of pharmacology is that medications are seriously working on catecholamine pathways. And that is why you see the most of the effectiveness coming from Ritalin and Vyvanse and all the other medications that we modern sees all, you know, in today's world. That, you know, if I take these medications, then I'm going to be okay. I can see things. I can find myself in the right space. I can focus. I can be more productive. But that doesn't happen that way, isn't it? It comes at a price. I am giving you something, then you also have to pay me back, isn't it? You must have seen the world like, I'll give you something, you give me back, isn't it? This is what's happening here. In ADHD, you take that medication, but the system wants something else from it as well. And what is that? Side effects. Because it's not mine. Please try to understand. Did you produce dopamine? No. Did you produce norepinephrine? No. Then where this is coming from? Stimulant drugs that is producing these chemicals to keep you in focus. Now, if this is coming from outside, please try to understand. Then you got to pay for the side effects because the body did not produce it. And that's the reality of medications. And they come with tons of side effects. Imagine if the system is running on a certain regulation, you know, and then you pour something to your system. The system will shake. It won't stay normal. Because you stimulate one region, the rest is all wrecked. It won't be so good. This is why ADHD is hard to treat. Because you're going straight inside the system. You're hitting the deck. You're playing with the system. How can you stay normal? Think about it. This is going to take time. And this is where the sad part is. And that's why we come to unfold this. Now we're going to dive deep into what exactly, how does ADHD can possibly happen in children's, apart from parents having ADHD. If the parents don't have ADHD, if the child has, then how does a child has ADHD? How? You should know that as well. So as you can see, in utero, which is during pregnancy, events such as maternal stress during pregnancy, prenatal exposure to tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs, environmental toxins, pregnancy, birth complications, as well as growth retardation and low birth weight, prematurity, have been associated with ADHD. This is sad, you know. This is really sad because we don't know how to give birth to a child. We don't know how to eat. We don't know what is the right way for pregnancy. But we claim that we know. And look what is happening here. You see, these are the findings. And I'm not like some god. I'm a human being. And if I can see these problems, then we're supposed to correct this. Why? Because once you start those medications, your child's growth will be stagnant for some time. And that is bad. This is the ugly reality of ADHD. Subside the part. Now from here on, I want to subside the part of calling ADHD, because let's just put that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder aside, because I don't want to give that name. I want you to understand in terms of neuroanatomical level what happens inside, because I'm fed up with this ADHD word. Try to understand inside. There is a problem inside. Forget the name. If you try to balance things out from inside, then there is no such thing as ADHD, isn't it? This is real life science. I'm talking about deep in science. That these problems during pregnancy, prenatal exposure to tobacco, alcohol during pregnancy, women, they smoke, they drink, they take drugs, causing problems. I told you in my early videos as well, alcohol, any form of alcohol is bad for the brain, but now it's bad for the pregnancy, bad for the child. Even in your environment, if your environment is stressful, there's a lot of chemicals around you, a lot of noise, no rest, a lot of hard work going on, then it's really bad for the child. You're going to see some serious conditions here. Now, when we talk on this, then what else we need to understand? Now, prevalent neurodevelopment conditions characterized by symptoms of inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity to a degree that is inconsistent with development level. See, you know what ADHD is. Inattention, isn't it? Then comes impulsivity. Then comes hyperactivity. So, inattention. What inattention is? Let's say, if I'm reading this, all right, I'm reading this. And like, there is something interesting. What is that? You should focus on how to learn new things, isn't it? And now there's a long list of learning. So you read the top part, now it goes down. You know, moving your head left and right, playing with your pen. Gone, finish. Why is this? Why is this? And then second thing is impulsivity. Connection, inattention, then the inside function having a lot of impulsivity. Why is this? And then comes hyperactivity. Why is this? I'll explain you. I'll explain you this science. Let's say you're paying attention and your exams are pretty close. Your head is spinning around. It's telling you, okay, I need to study this, I need to do this. So what are you doing? You're learning things. The brain is actually recalibrating all of that stuff that happened from past 6 months or 8 months, and it's just going at a really fast pace. The brain is gone. Flash, finish. The board is there, but the brain is not processing anything. You're going somewhere else. Boom, finish. The inattention will begin. Now what happens is the brain that looks in front, it's a clear indication of, the chemical like dopamine and norepinephrine has dropped significantly in prefrontal cortex. Finish. Gone. The chemical has reduced. Now what happens? The part of impulsivity increases. You know how you do that, Finish. Gone. Your brain is finished. It cannot understand what is happening now. If you get to this stage, you're lost. Why? Because that is where the chemical drops in prefrontal cortex and you are lost in there completely. You're in some other world. You're doing something else. You're somewhere else in another world. And you're thinking really hard. This is what inattention is in a basic conditions. Now what happens in normal condition is that when it gets really high, like every now and then. Now this was a basic one, where your mind is wandering and pondering in some other places. But what if it's continuously happening? That's where the problem is. That needs to be corrected. This is the difference between basic inattention and patients who have abnormal conditions, who cannot even pay attention. Now, parents who have ADHD, then children will get disturbed pretty much high. Let's say if they're in a school and parents didn't know that they had ADHD, and the child is completely disturbing the class, and then the parents realize that the child had some problems, and what are we supposed to do with it? Then the child parents go to the doctor, and the doctor tests the parents and the child, and they realize both have ADHD. Finish. The parents are shocked. How do I didn't even knew I have ADHD. How's that possible? And then they go back and they try to realize, yes, I had ADHD in the past, and I didn't realize these symptoms. So that was the first thing that happens in ADHD, like inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. 3 conditions applied to ADHD. It's also related to CNS, like I keep saying, and genetics. So if it is genetics, then you should learn more on genetics as well, because I want to make you realize on how much depth ADHD is. So, as you can see, the most consistent evidence for a genetic association to the ADHD phenotype has been shown for markers in DA receptors, DA4, which is called as DRD4, DA receptor D5, which is commonly known as DRD5, DA transporter. What is it called? It's called SLC6A3/DAT1. Serotonin receptor 1B, HTR1B, and then there is serotonin transporter, which is SLC6A4/5HTT, and synaptosomal association protein 25, which is SNAP25 genes. Whoa, this is too much. It is as complex as these genetics are. Receptors, like I told you, dopamine. What does dopamine do? Dopamine is actually causing an hindrance in ADHD. Why is it causing an hindrance to the ADHD? Because it is spiking somewhere else. And low dopamine in frontal cortex, low. If it's low, then finish. You cannot concentrate. Imagine a car. You want to drive a car. What does the car needs? The car needs that petrol, the gas, to run it. You go to the gas station, you refill it, and the car runs. If you don't refill your car, would the car run? No. It'll be shut down. So, if I'm talking in terms of prefrontal cortex, it needs dopamine and norepinephrine. And if that is found low, how can he concentrate? How? Think about it. So what are the symptoms that persist in adulthood in majority of patients are associated with functional impairments and increased risk of depression, substance abuse, and antisocial behavior. This is really bad. Now look how much deficit is there in this. Forget about, I say that word ADHD, no, not that. Deficit. Deficit of what? Substance abuse and antisocial behavior. Antisocial behavior is really, really high. That amount of deficit is enough to make an ADHD patient depressed. So depression is really high. And that can happen. In children, it's high. Depression is high in children as well. How? They don't feel like doing anything. They'll sit down. They won't be attentive. They'll feel bored, they'll feel sad. And when they get active, oh my goodness, everything is gone, finished. And that activation is how? Why there is so much of activation, hyperness, with cognitive impairments in inhibitory control and executive functions. This is really bad. I told you, if the chemical goes low on this, then this is gone. And if this is gone, then you need medications. How are you going to treat that? Think about it. How are you going to supply dopamine and norepinephrine in children if they are going to be extremely high and energetic and being non-productive? And you're going to sit down like this and think, what is happening to my children? I don't know what to do with him or she. They both are like, he or she is like out of control. I'm tired. I cannot do this. That's because there's an impairment. There's no control. Imagine control. A normal child, he picks up a pen, he's doing something like this, and mom says, or dad, mom and dad, stop it, don't do it. Finish. Child is not doing. ADHD. Stop it, don't do it. I said, stop it, don't do it. Don't you realize what I'm saying? Stop it. What is happening here? Finish. There is no control. This is a section of control. The information goes in, it gets processed through the eyes to the ears, and this is closed off. They're trying, but then again they'll do it. Why would they do that? Because there is no control on this section. That is why. Please try to understand. As a parent, this section is out of control. And the child does not know how to control it. It's very bad. And it's sad to see that. And when you see all of this, then psychosocial adversities and high levels of conflict were also associated with attention deficits and hyperactivity. So if I say psychosocial adversities, then what are the possible things that can happen inside the brain? Then that's really sad to see that if this is happening, then there's a really bad effect to the child. And it's sad to see that their growth factor is going to stop. I've already put a video on child's development and how does the genetic changes, especially when you're pregnant and when the child is born, what exactly you need to do with the child. And that all need to be understood in terms of understanding that how to grow a child. If you realize this, then the child will never suffer either from autism, from ADHD, or any other problems that the child may face as they grow. So it is the parent's responsibility to have a peaceful environment, a safe environment for ADHD, or for a normal child as well, that they do not have any serious problems in future. It is the parent's duty to have a peaceful and safe environment during pregnancy and post-pregnancy. In both the conditions, you have to take care of your child till the age of 5 years. It's very, very essential, from birth to 5 years. I put up that video. You can see it. It's there. Then what happens is that the recent studies have taken into account genetic factors that may contribute to adverse prenatal and later life circumstances. Example, smoking during pregnancy or stress during pregnancy might be more frequent in mothers with ADHD. These are all the studies that we do actually, and I didn't do this. I mean, I just got this information, but as much as the research goes on, we try to analyze on all the different sections. Why do ADHD so hard to be treated? Is because of these problems that you see. The environmental factor is very important in ADHD, which is why I keep saying during pregnancy, stay calm, do your best, and not to do something that can cause harm to the child. Now, the environment, if I want to talk on, let's say if there's a bad environment and you're pregnant, isn't it? Now, during pregnancy, I'll take this. This is the beginning stages of the child inside your warmth. I'm taking this as a consideration. Now inside this, the child is growing, inside your warmth. Like inside your warmth. The child is growing, isn't it? So this is the child that grows. Now imagine if you smoke. Structural changes is going to happen from inside. You smoked, it's going to happen. Why? Because the cells are trying to protect the child from dying from inside. So the changes already happen as the child is growing inside your warmth. Alcohol, it goes in, it suppresses more, and it suppresses more, it suppresses more. What is happening here? It's going defense. This is defensiveness inside. The structure will change. And there can be a miscarriage if the alcohol is too much inside of you. Chemical-based food, chemical-based drinks like Coke, aspartame, these things are really bad. High or, really, really strong medications can change the structure inside your warmth. The child will not be completely healthy when they're born. Structural changes are going to happen. This is why I showed you this. As you keep growing, the child will have abnormalities. CNS won't grow pretty well, and the child will turn into ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Major structures will change as a prefrontal cortex. CNS growth will stop. It won't be as healthy as a normal child would be. And then you'll struggle to stay calm and focus on one thing. And then you got to take medications. So this is the basic fundamental that I'm making you understand. Like in many videos I said, I will come up with a lot of videos. I will come up in depth about all of this as well in future. This is just the beginning. I'm giving you an outline, a baseline on my channel, Precious Brain Lab, to make you realize what this is all about. So we'll go in depth in future. What is all this? It's just the beginning. So what else do we need to know? We need to know that deficits in executive functioning, like I said, especially in tasks involving executive control, response inhibition, and working memory. At the very beginning, what did I talk about at the very beginning? Working memory, and that is what is happening here. This is a major problem in ADHD. If you ask these two things, all right? Ask them, do one task. Either you type in this, or either you write this on a piece of paper. And they will think. They'll pick something which is easier, which is this phone, not this pen. I can surely say this. If they pick this up, and now they open it up, and now they'll go in and they'll try to type. What is happening? They're typing, but the brain is not communicating well from this section. They'll type and they'll get confused. They'll type, they'll get confused, and they'll look here and there. I told you to write. Why are you not writing this? Working memory, finish. Not happening. This is a major deficit that is found here. Why am I talking in depth? Is because I'm talking from inside function, not outside. So the inside function, if you remove fMRI, then this is that function that we focus on. And that's it. The child is gone. Finish. So then what happens is the DRD4 gene, which I talked about earlier, is known to regulate traits such as motivation and thrill-seeking, and is also associated with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and addictive and risky behavior. DRD4 gene. You see, when we were looking at this section, this gene regulates traits of motivation and thrill-seeking. How many child have motivation to do the right thing, especially when they cannot pay attention? I said, look here, but they won't, because that motivation is wrecked, which means the gene has caused interpretation, that the gene had caused a problem. There's an interpretation, there's a deficit found. So imagine what the gene is doing. Gone, finish. You cannot pay attention, you cannot do anything. There's no motivation. Such a big deficit. Think about it. Then what happens is normal function, which means the DRD5 gene provides instructions for making a protein called dopamine receptor D5, which is found in the brain. This protein works together with a chemical messenger called dopamine. So DRD5, DRD4, we're talking in terms of genetic that is causing problems in ADHD. What is that? The DRD5, DRD4, these are the major ones. The major ones. You see, both of these are giving something to the brain. And if there's a deficit in this, then how does the child supposed to pay attention? I gave you the right information, an absolute spot-on information, what is happening inside. There is a genetic problem. And if you're not going to look into this in a serious note, you're about to play with your child's life. And which is why these medications can only help you at certain level. They're not fully going to help you because these are genetic related problems. I'm talking the inside functions. And that's why I say they also need to do certain things as well, which we're going to talk in this video as well. Then comes the part of mechanism of actions of stimulants, methylphenidate. You know, this is one of my favorite parts. I love to talk on medications as well, and amphetamines, including the blockade of the DA, SLC6A3 DAT, and neurotransmitter, norepinephrine transporters, which is SLC6A2/NAT, inhibition of monoamine oxidase, and enhanced release of catecholamine. Stimulants mainly act on DA1 receptors in prefrontal cortex and D2 receptors in striatum. You see, these mechanisms of methylphenidate and amphetamines, what are they actually doing? They're trying to motivate you to stay focused and do things, you know, in terms of learning and memorizing. How cool is that? Isn't it? Yes, I'm going to talk in depth about these medications as well. Now, there is this one thing that we need to understand. Well, taking these medications, they're also going to be a problem with your brain connectivity as well, because these are temporary solutions. They're not permanent. Imagine, I'll give an example, let's say, imagine that you cannot walk. All right? You cannot walk much. So they give you those sticks, where you kind of walk with those sticks, but it's not giving you that benefit. Imagine. So then finally, what is that permanent solution you want? You want to go to that distance without having any problems. Your leg is having problems and you cannot walk much. So in the end, you find a solution that I need a wheelchair. And if I sit on it, there's nothing wrong. But I can go that mile without having any problems. So with these medications, we're on that stick. We're not completely sure of what this medication, how much is going to help to the child. No. It's just to keep you in regulation, which means that today I'm having some problems. I'm taking the medications. It's keeping me in regulation for today. Tomorrow again, I got to take it. I'm going to talk on terms of dosage and all of this. You'll learn everything on this video because I want to make sure that you're getting all of this. So then what happens is, if these medications are seriously causing a blockage to these genes and these transporters, then also they're causing an havoc to the other parts of the brain. Why? Because, let me say something, maybe this will come in handy. Long-term blockage. This is really important. Long-term blockage to any dopamine receptors can cause tremors in the hand like this. And that happens after a long time of blockage to the dopamine receptors. It just goes like this. It doesn't stay normal. That is because long term of these medications, let's say if the dopamine has spiked, and it's a natural spike, the med goes in and boom, it cuts off. All right, it cuts off. No spike. Nothing is happening. So what is happening? There's a block. If you continually block, then what's going to happen? System is shaking, abnormal. It's just going to shake like this because something is wrong inside and it's not being corrected. And this is long term. Then what happens is, as you can see, a variety of brain subregions, including prefrontal cortex and parietal cortexes, basal ganglia, cerebellum, hippocampus, and corpus callosum were found impacted by ADHD. These regions have been involved in functional networks related to ADHD. My dear friends, please understand what I make you realize in this slide. We are talking in terms of serious wiring connections, and one of them that I am talking in terms is basal ganglia. I am very much interested in this brain region. Basal ganglia, it's my favorite region. Cerebellum. These are actually for executive function network. And then comes the part of frontocerebral network, cerebellum, and basal ganglia. Their connection from basal ganglia to the prefrontal cortex, which means when the prefrontal cortex is connecting with cerebellum, then it's connecting with the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is sending that signal back to the part of striatum, and then from there it's actually going down to the basal ganglia. If the basal ganglia is the base of that communication to the prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia, then this is also interesting what happens now from here on. But I don't know how to show this picture, but let's just understand this. Imagine this is basal ganglia. It's a part of several regions, and that's how basal ganglia is. Imagine this is basal ganglia. Excuse me. Imagine this is basal ganglia, and this is the part of supplementary motor cortex. All right? And this, it's prefrontal cortex. This is that front section, prefrontal cortex. This is supplementary, and this is basal ganglia. Once that information is processed, it needs to take action. So this section has decided what to do. All right? So what happens is, they're sending that signal. Prefrontal cortex is sending the signal. It goes to supplementary cortex right here. Then this is sending signal to the basal ganglia right here. So from here to here, and then here. And then the outcome. It's going to come out. What are you going to do now? All right? So what the interesting part is, short circuit to basal ganglia. Boom, finish. So when the signal is going from here, it goes to supplementary cortex. And then here, nothing is happening. It's just short circuit. If there's a short circuit, then what happens? Hyperness. How interesting. The system is from inside. From here, supplementary motor cortex, and then down there, I don't know how to explain to you, like down there, the basal ganglia, and finish. Short circuit, and the child is hyper. Boom, finish. For hours he's going to do whatever he wants, and there is no control over this. He'll do whatever he wants. and it'll be out of control. No matter what you do, you will continue to do this. Stop it. No, you won't. Finish. The connection that is happening inside is causing a serious problem. It's a deficit. It's a serious problem. Basal ganglia. And if this is that serious problem, then there is something more to this as well. What is that? Then we talk on these subregions that I want to talk on. There are two kinds of functions that happens, which is cool executive functions and hot executive functions. In cool executive functions, you're going to find DLPFC, then you're going to find DACC, SMA, basal ganglia, thalamus, parietotemporal, and cerebellum. These are cool functions. And when you talk on cool functions, then we talk on hot functions as well, which is OFC, VMPFC, insula, ventral striatum, amygdala, and superior temporal. These tasks are reduced task, positive action, activation, reduce, finish. These regions that I'm talking on, it reduce, finish. There's nothing left. How it's reduced, we'll try and understand more. Now, as you can see, I talked about the front section, which is the working memory. You see that in this picture, in this slide, that it is something called as A, B, C, D, E, and down there you will see B, D, A, C, E. One is organized and one is disorganized. Why is that? Now, in a normal, healthy human being, the working memory works in order, A, B, C, D, E. But in ADHD, the child working memory is not in order. It's disordered, which is B, D, A, C, E. It could be any order, but it won't be like A, B, C, D, E. So that working memory is like that in ADHD. In a normal, healthy human being, you can have you have a capacity up to 5 working memory, which is 5 different tasks a healthy human being can perform. Let's say if you're in a kitchen, I'm cooking something on a gas stove. Then at the same time, I'm looking down at my oven. There's something kept in the oven. At the same time, but there's cooking in the oven and cooking at the gas stove. And I'm doing the third element is I'm doing something chopping. I'm chopping some vegetables. At the same time, there's another gas stove which has started, and I'm pan frying some vegetables on it, and I'm cutting some more vegetables as well. So there are 4 different tasks, and each time that brain is picking up and they're doing all that task. But in ADHD, it's not like that. They'll do it, and then they'll forget, and then they'll do it again. It's disorganized. The brain is actually picking up information, but it's coming from several different angles, but the brain is not steady. Why? I talked about dopamine and norepinephrine reduction. So the brain is completely out of focus. And it's just like, imagine there's this building and there's this 5 windows, and 5 windows are all open. So the birds, they go in, they come out easily. No disturbance. They go in, they come out. There is no disturbance, and this is what's happening to the brain. The information goes in, but the information does not hold inside. It just goes out like that window, boom, finish. They're looking and they're trying to understand, lost. How to focus? The brain is actually going out of focus. It's just like the open window. The information goes and it's coming out. It's gone, finish. And if they try to do that, then it's so difficult. It's exactly like, you see, I want to concentrate, and at the same time, I'm getting an electric shock. How can he concentrate? Electric shock. And I'm like focusing. No, you can't. Finish. That shock is happening from inside, and they cannot focus. And that's the deficit. The hyperness, the electrical high voltage happening inside the brain. It's overstimulating, and they cannot control it. They're like I'm doing it. Why can't you understand? But I don't know how to make you realize I cannot focus anymore. So they get really tired. They get frustrated, and they cannot focus. And that's what happens in ADHD. Now, what do we need to understand in terms of ADHD is that if they cannot focus, then there is also problems related from genetics, problem related from CNS, and because there is this underdevelopment that's happening and the changes of the wiring, it's very difficult. The outcome is they cannot even focus well. The system is disrupted. The system is not in balance. But it's not that they cannot do it. Let's say in a healthy child, they had this in them. The child was able to focus and do things. It comes naturally, just put in that way. But in ADHD, we have to do it manually. That's the difference. It comes automated, like an automated system, like naturally, like the child pays attention and he does things. But in ADHD, now we got to do it manually. That's the difference between the two. One is natural ability to focus, and the other one manually, which means we got to force the mechanism to focus on certain directions. Now, according to the framework of executive function processes based on Zillizo and Carson 2012 and Zimmerman in 2016, the hot and cold functions of executive functions. What are those actually? The cool EFCs is working memory, inhibition, inhibitory control, and cognitive flexibility. And then comes the part of hot EFCs, decision making in situations of uncertainty, delayed of gratification, affective reversal learning, and theory of mind. In both these conditions, I'd already talked about the brain regions of hot, cool executive functions and hot executive functions. In both these conditions, it is reduced task positive activation. How dense this is. Reduced, which means it has cut into half from inside. Why? Because the connectivity is weak. It's not fully grown connections are happening. Like I talked on so many brain regions, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, inferior frontal cortex, dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, supplementary motor, orbital prefrontal cortex, ventral medial prefrontal cortex, anterior cingulate cortex, and lateral medial, LM. What are we talking? Look at this. On top of that, the part of insula, ventral striatum, amygdala, and superior temporal. We're finding it weak. Reduction. The positive actions are gone, finish. You cannot do anything more than this. Your positivity is finished, gone. All of that control functions are out of control. It has reduced. If it has reduced, like I said, then you got to put a manual effect. Like, in a car, there is this automatic gear and a manual gear. In ADHD, it is a manual glare. Manual. Manually, from outside, the third hand is going to help you to control these functions. It's not automated that, I can control it. Please try to understand this theory. Let's say if the car is shut down, you want to push the car. The manually got to push it, right? 4 or 5 people are going to push that car to move it, right? Because there's no gas. The car is shut down. So you got to make it reach to the gas station. If child cannot concentrate, then he needs that third hand to concentrate. Why? Because that automatic function is reduced. Maybe to half, maybe to quarter. You never know. But that reduction is happening, and it's a constant pace. So it requires that prefrontal cortex to open up and start to concentrate and do things in the right direction. And that's where ADHD is really hard to treat. Very difficult at this stage. The CNS is reducing, and which is why you're finding a lot of deficits in these areas. And we thoroughly understand that why is it so difficult. I don't want to get to the ifs and buts of what others say or what they're talking on these sections. No, I want to give my 100% in every time I make a video, to give you that right information of what is happening inside, so you know what it is why is it happening from inside. And when you know that, you can control yourself. You can try so many ways to control yourself from inside. You're not going to be living in a mysterious life where you don't know what is happening. Like you might think like, God knows what is happening to me. You don't have to be in that stage, which is why I'm telling you all of this. So then what happens is, the study found that overall brain volume and 5 of the regional volumes were smaller in people with ADHD. The caudate nucleus, putamen, nucleus accumbens these are the part of basal ganglia, amygdala, and hippocampus. I told you I love basal ganglion, which is why I'm working on it. I want to bring out more on these sections. Basal ganglia, cerebellum. Imagine if the cerebellum is disrupted. Something bad happens, you meet with an accident. What's going to happen? Imbalance in motor functions. Imbalance. Well, I don't want to get in depth of that. Those are medical anomalies, medical findings, and this is neuroscience. So that's what happens in ADHD, that basal ganglia volumes are less, amygdala and hippocampus. Imagine what the ADHD child says. I've done a task, but I forget it. I don't know, I remember it. And then I do it again. Why is that volume reduction in amygdala and hippocampus? So you cannot remember things. And hyperness increases because basal ganglia gets in stage of, hyperness. A lot of hyperness, overstimulation of that brain region. And that is why the children cannot understand what to do. They control it, but they go out of control. Yes, there are some children who do it, like if they don't want to study, they know they had ADHD, but they're not getting into hyperness. And they do it for purpose, at that time. Like, I cannot concentrate and I'm having this problem. And the next thing, they're sitting there and they're enjoying. What is happening here? This is also another problem. We need to realize that how sometimes kids, they manipulate with their own disease. We need to educate themselves, educate these children that this should not be manipulated. This is actually a problem inside your system. We need to correct this. You need to give various examples and make the child understand that don't play with it. It's not good. It's very dangerous. And that is why if we see hyperactivity may be consecutive to dysfunction of reward response and motivation. This is also a big problem. You know, hyperactivity has one bad disruption is reward response and motivation. No motivation. When we talk on, non-productive activities, I've talked in my previous videos what non-productive activity do. Non-productive activity is something that can lead to child deficits in certain areas, which is learning and memorizing, which is very important at that age. If they continue to be non-productive, then they'll be not be much motivated in learning and memorizing. And then reward response. Reward response means what? There are problems in understanding the reward. What is that? And they're simply just, why am I not getting this part of my, let's say, what is that? Allowance. Okay. I'm not getting my allowance. The whole week I studied and I did well. And my mom is not giving me any allowance. Like I used to get like $2, $3, or $4 from my mother. And my mom is not giving me any more. $2, I'm not getting it. So they don't understand why this is happening, you see. And when they explain, they can get stubborn. And stubborn means they'll fight. They'll get aggressive. They'll also say, I'm bad and I'm not worthy. And they'll sit in corner and they'll, one of the biggest trait in ADHD is one more thing. What is that? You see what I'm doing? What is happening here? You see, I cannot stay still. I cannot. Why? Because that system inside is wrecked. It's just causing too much of disturbance in the CNS, and that's where the child cannot stay still. Too much of dopamine is released in the brain, and it's just causing that problem. And that dopamine is not actually forfeiting prefrontal cortex, it's blocking prefrontal cortex, and the control is losing. So you got to cut the part of these receptors through medications, which is why the problem is. And where is that deep problem is, gene effects have also been shown on brain structure with DRD4 and DAT1. Genotypes influencing the volume of prefrontal cortex and the volume of caudate nucleus respectively. Wow, look at this. We're talking of influencing the volume of prefrontal cortex and volume of caudate nucleus respectively. So DRD4 and DAT1 genotypes. If I want to make somebody talk on this, and there are many speakers out there, and they literally say, they come up with the books and they say heal from ADHD, and then they even claim that there's no such thing as ADHD. Okay, you're saying it. I don't believe it. No ADHD. All right. If there's no ADHD. And they also say that whatever the others are talking about, like it's a psychotic disorder or it's related to the genes, I'm the evidence here. It's related to the genes. And those people who are talking big talks, this is not normal. You see, the child is suffering from inside. And you want to become famous by giving false things out there This is neuroscience. I challenge these people. Come up and talk. This is wrong from their side. This is genetic problems. And these findings are not some joke. This is reality of ADHD. And if they don't realize this, that they need to be treated. And if these people are talking in terms, big talks, then please do some research and then talk on these terms. Don't play with life. And that is why I come up with this. The DRD4 and DAT1 genotype influencing the volume of prefrontal cortex and caudate nucleus. Why do we have hyperness? Why can't they concentrate? It's causing problems in these genetic types. The child growth is stopped. Please try to understand. It's not growing to its full potential. And if it's not growing in full potential, then what happens? Modification of proteins in neuronal structures, such as the dendritic spine, could account of the intermediate phenotypes. Example, changes in dendrite spines morphology, leading to an abnormal synaptic transmission. Now talk. Where is the problem? Is this a joke? Imagine that there is this signal on the road. The signal is working really fine. Red, the car stops and the people pass. They cross the road. If the signal is off, how can he cross that road? How does the car stops? If they don't stop at the signal, then the people cannot cross that road. There will be a dysfunction. The functionality is gone. That is what's happening inside. Synapses are having abnormal connections. Very, very important to understand. Imagine that one connection is seriously focusing on looking at that board. Another connection concentrate. What is happening? That brain connection is shifting. You see, they're looking, but it's going this direction and it's moving at this direction, but it's not being stable. That's because of the CNS is causing problem. If they even sit for 1 minute, it's impossible. The inside section is whacked. It's just not stopping there. It's making it difficult for the child to do more. Now, what exactly we need to understand from here on is the most important part is medication. And I want to make you realize why medication is important from here on. Please do not get into false information that somebody says, I can heal ADHD and read my books and you'll get this and you'll get that. And I would say that to those people, please stop giving false information to people. This is a serious problem, and we're not fools sitting in there in that lab and doing all kinds of research and trying to make people realize that what this is all about. This is all about genetics and CNS. If we can straighten that, then the child is normal. No end amount of these people are talking that we can heal this, we can do that. For God's sake, I'm requesting to everybody, don't do anything stupid that can cost a child's life. I'm giving you the right information to make you realize what you need to do with your child. Please don't do anything stupid. It's a request. Now, speaking on these terms, let us go ahead. Now, from here on, it's going to be a little strenuous because it's all about medications, and I want to make you realize that what are we supposed to do with all of this. So, as you can see, about 75% to 80% of children with ADHD will benefit from the use of psychostimulant stimulants, which is methylphenidate, dexamethylphenidate, and dexamfetamine, lisdexamfetamine, and the mixed amphetamine salts. Dextro and levoamphetamine constitute the psychostimulant. Okay, so we reached to this point. What is this talking about? 75 to 80% children will benefit from the use of psychostimulant drugs. Psychostimulant medications, what are those types? Both norepinephrine and dopamine play a critical role in modulating attention in ADHD. Norepinephrine may have more effect on executive functioning. Deficits in executive functioning manifest as having difficulty solving problems, remembering tasks, and remaining and planning for future tasks, whereas dopamine may be more important in maintaining attention. Genomic studies have identified a variety of dopamine and serotonin receptors. Dopamine 4 and 5 serotonin B1 having significant association with ADHD. You know, I seriously talked on this, that if there is a volume reduction in these sections, which is norepinephrine and dopamine in the frontal cortex, one helps you to make the right decision in the height space, and the other one focus on putting up that attention. Like dopamine is helping you to focus to do the right thing. If the volume is reduced, then these tasks are reduced, isn't it? If these tasks are reduced, then what are those things that are seriously that can help to improve the child's focus and understanding? And that is psychostimulant medication. So psychostimulant medications, what are those types? There are two types, as you can see: short-acting and long-acting. Short-acting means 4 to 6 hours, and long-acting means 8 to 12 hours. In both, depending on your child's condition, the doctors prescribe these medications. These are the famous ones that I've listed. The short-acting is Adderall, Excedrin, Dextrosat, and Procentra, Zendizi. These are short-acting. Then comes the long-acting: Adderall XR, Dexedrin SR, Vyvanse, and Adhd XR ODT. These are these short and long-acting medications. There are some as well which are also included in the part of stimulant drugs, and those are the the part of the dosage. Actually, I'm talking about the dosage are like 40 mg per day for 4 to 6 hours of duration of these medications, short acting. And then comes the part of the long acting, which depends on the Adderall XR, which will give you like about 30 mg per day, 10 mg daily, divided into 3 times a day. Then comes the Dextrin SR, where you can give about 5 to 10 mg, 40 mg per day, divided into several hours. Then comes Vyvanse, 20 to 30 mg, which means 70 mg per day, and ZNSXR ODT, between 6 to 12 years old, 18.8 mg per day. 13 to 17 years of age, 12.5 mg per day. Now, according to these medications, Vyvanse, these medications, Vyvanse is one of those medications that should be taken under observation. Why? Because you can have loss of appetite. That's the saddest part of these medications. It's very dangerous because that tablet is related to CNS. If you overdose this medication, then the child growth is going to be stopped. So remember, while giving Vyvanse, you need to be on strict observation. Child growth factor will stop. Also, you need to keep a watch on the diet. They might reduce the appetite drastically, which means they're not able to eat well and they lose a lot of weight. So need to take care of that diet as well and need to be in regulation of these medications. Now, when we talk on methylphenidate, which is Ritalin, the famous tablet that we talked on, Ritalin has one of the famous tablets in ADHD. Now, when you take methylphenidate, a high-fat meal eaten at the same time of administration may delay the onset of action. Many children, I'm going to talk on diet as well, so stick around this video. I'm going to tell everything, what exactly is happening inside. Also, I'm going to explain to you about hyperness and sugar and all of that. All of this is going to be explained in this video. So high fat, what does it do? It slows the part of the onset, which means concentration was gone. Imagine if you eat a heavy meal. Can you concentrate? No. In a natural state, when you eat too much of high-fat food, acidity increases. And acid increases means then the effect of that tablet will also reduce. Isn't it? It'll put that, the child's brain will get heavier and it'll slow down the process of learning. And they'll feel lazy, they'll feel lethargic, they won't be able to concentrate. And by the time when, you'll say, okay, we won't do it now, we'll do it later. And then after 30 or 40 minutes, you'll see the child is highly active. And you say, what is happening here? Maybe the child didn't want it to learn, which is why he's doing this. But try to understand their diet. If the diet is really high fat, then methylphenidate is not going to work. So in that condition, you will see like, oh, the child is active. Maybe the child didn't want it to learn. Then look at the diet. If the diet was heavy meal or high-fat meal, then the medication is not going to work. Then comes, as with methylphenidate, food does not affect the overall benefit of amphetamines. However, there is a delay in absorption of about 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours, if a high-fat meal is eaten with a mixed amphetamine salts. You see, when you eat these things, these medications that I was talked about, I'm just giving you an insight. I will be talking in depth of certain medications in future for ADHD. Try to solve that complexity and make it simple in terms of that how much is medication is benefit for the children, because I'm working on it. So it's going to take time to find that right method of how much medication is right for the children and what else can a child do to improve his conditions. So I'm working on big concepts on ADHD as well. So I just talked on those medications. High fat, you see 2.5 hours delayed. high-fat meal is never good for them. And that is why most of the ADHD child, when they take their medications, and the mothers, they love their child, so they give whatever their child wants. And when they give them, then it's really bad. They lose their wiring. And that medication, food is this big. Med is so small. Imagine that stomach is holding this food, and that medication goes in. It's powerless. Why? Because unless this food is digested, this med cannot be activated. It's clearly said 2.5 hours, which means after the food get digested, the meal get digested, only then that medication is active. So you decide what you put in. If you're giving the medication, then make sure you give food, but not heavy meals, not high-fat meals. Less light, easy, that can be digested, and the medication starts to work. The onset will be really high. You got to note down the points of when are they going to study, and that peak should be there, the medication peak at the time of their study. You got to make sure about that. So the child studies. So you got to make sure about that peak hours. This is important in this. If you understand this peak, everything is fine. No problem. Then comes Vyvanse, is a central nervous system CNS stimulant prescription medicine used for the treatment of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in adults and children 6 years of age and older. Vyvanse may help increase attention and decrease impulsivity and hyperactivity in people with ADHD. Okay, Vyvanse. You can also look online for the side effects, but as a neuroscience, in terms of neuroscience, Vyvanse is not good. No. It's a long-term medication, but it's affecting the nervous system, CNS. If you are somebody, and if it's necessarily, then take it in limitation and don't exceed the medication. Keep a watch on Vyvanse if they're taking these medications. It's a CNS related stuff. I kept saying this, please don't play with the child's growth. You would see that the height will reduce, or their weight or their body structure will change. It's very dangerous, and that cannot be reversed. So when you give these medications, keep your eyes open. And especially when you give Vyvanse, it's a long-acting drugs. So obviously 8 to 12 hours of his onsets are going to be there. But even though it's there, you would see a mild surface of impulsivity in children as well, due to that 8 to 12 hours of reservation of these onset of these medications. If you give certain food, it can react to the children's, especially some type of food that can react with these medications, and that can cause an hindrance even to the growth of the child. So not enough medication can do much on this. We also need to understand the potential of how bad this is disrupted, because Vyvanse has one of the biggest trait of Vyvanse is that when it give these medications to children, they'll often have problems in communicating well. It's very difficult. When they'll take these medications, it'd be very difficult to communicate, because it's disturbing the part of the CNS. You see, I'll give an example of what you need to do. If you give any medication to your child, give them that first tablet and observe them and ask them about the next day how they feel. If they have problems, stop the medication. Don't give that. Even if the doctor says that, Even if you give this, there'll be no problem. Continue to give this. Don't do that. Don't do it. Why? Because there is a reason behind this. Give me a minute. I'll let you know what I want to make you realize is right at the beginning, I talked about, here it is. I talked about CYP2D6 gene. This is rapid or poor metabolism. This gene type is for rapid or poor metabolism. Now, Vyvanse can cause problem to this gene type. They're not going to say this because they don't know. I'm telling you, the reduction, poor appetite is going to increase. CYP2D6 gene type, it is going to be suppressed by these medications, which means poor appetite. Poor appetite means reduce in their weight, malnutrition. They'll get weak, they're not going to feel good, they'll have headaches, body ache, can also lead to seizures. Who knows? There are possibilities. I'm giving you straight life examples what this medication does. I would not recommend to go for these medication unless it is required. You can go up to like Ritalin and the other parts of those medications. But don't go for these medications. They're very, very hard. They're difficult. And I gave you the example how it really affects and interprets with their genetics. And the child can lose weight. The child may look skinny. The child may look really, hyperness will increase, confusion in the brain increases. And this is just the beginning of these medications. So if you give medications, keep it up to a limitation. Don't give in too much. I've already told you that if you want to give them, test the medication first. Test it, give them one medication and see what happens. If they're able to feel good and concentrate, continue. If they have any disturbance, mood disturbance, anger, irritability, mood swings, depression, anything on that surface, on those lines, if you see when they take these medications, stop it and throw it. Don't continue. No, I don't recommend that to do that. Now let us try and understand more in depth about nutrition, because this is my part that I want to make you realize what nutrition can do for ADHD as well. We need to also give them good food, right? So you need to understand that. So as you can see, protein-rich diet. Protein-rich diet includes meat and poultry products, fish and shellfish, beans, lentils, eggs, nuts. These are really good for ADHD. Why? Because we want to increase the part of, their attention, their focus, and protein helps to develop that part of, their focus. It improves it pretty well. But also, what else the protein does? Protein also helps in complex carbs that helps prevent blood sugar spikes. So let's say this is a really good way to understand. I want to cut the part of the sugar. I'll increase protein. When protein is increased, then when you cut the part of that blood sugar, attention increases, focus increases, and the child can focus pretty well. Then comes the part of complex carbs. Complex carbohydrates like fruits, vegetables, whole grain breads. I would also prefer multigrain breads and pastas, brown rice, beans and lentils. These are really, really good products, food items for ADHD. I would highly recommend, please include these, because this will increase the part of their, slow down their process, and they'll feel relaxed and they'll go to sleep, which means complex carbs is really good to calm their body, and the child can sleep, especially when you include them late in the evenings and introduce them, which means the child will go to sleep. Then comes omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids improve attention, focus, motivation, and working memory in ADHD. And the source are fatty fish such as salmon and tuna, walnuts, chia seeds, and flax seeds. You can also look up in Google and find more on omega-3. What else can you give to your child? But omega-3 is very important for ADHD. I would recommend it, include in your diet, because this is a natural way to increase focus and working memory. But please notice that do not indulge in. What do you not need to be indulged? Do not indulge in. Avoid blood sugar spike, which comes from carbohydrates like sugar, rice, white flour, and coffee. They increase blood sugar. They spike the glucose in the body. And when you give this to the children won't be able to focus, which means the hyperness will increase because there is this blood glucose spike. When there is a blood glucose spike, there is an increase in energy in the body. If there's an increase in energy in the body, the child will start to focus in other direction, which is if non-productive things. Non-productive things means there are chances for the child to get into hyperness. If the child gets into hyperness, then that energy is utilized in hyperness, which means continuous glucose spike can increase hyperness, which means indirect way the body is fully energized, and if they get into hyperness, then that energy is used in hyperness. Imagine there are two things: energy used in learning and memorizing, and same energy used in non-productive activities like, I'll play with the toy, I will not eat much, I will throw things around, I will do unnecessarily activities. So it's the energy. If we cut that part of that energy, then the hyperness won't last long. It'll last on shorter duration, and that shorter duration will slowly shut down with time, and that hyperness will come in control. So you should not give these things. Children will demand for rice and some other curries, rice with fried chicken, sugary drinks, like donuts, chocolates, whatever. White flour, white breads, pizzas, burgers, very bad, coffee, stimulative drug. High stimulation already, children have hyperness, and in adults as well. If they drink coffee, then it's going to stimulate really hard. It's not going to improve focus. It's going to make it really bad. You may be able to grasp something, but once that subsides, symptoms get worse. So to avoid coffee as well. So these are the things that you need to understand. What else you need to do? You should also include mix of vegetables, whole grains, protein, and omega fatty acids in most meals. If you can do this, I swear to God, this is the most healthiest thing you can do for ADHD. They are not going to do this. Like I said, you have to do this. You've got to be manually doing this from outside. How you do this, it's up to you in your hands. Like I said, it's a manual progress. I'll come up with more videos. I'll come up with more deeper evaluation. So it'll be easier for you to understand your child and how to control your child. So the research is still going on. I'll see what I can come up with in the future videos. But till now, whatever information I have, I'm giving you to the max. I will come up with the medication part in depth in future, so that it'll be easier for you to understand what medication is better for your child and what you're supposed to do. I'll come up with several categories in depth to make you realize on medications as well. So now that we've come here, now the end section is, how can we improve the child focus? This is the last stage, and my main purpose is to make you realize. So as you can see, apart from medication, what can you do? Progressive sound therapy. What is progressive sound therapy? Imagine that you need to sing. You need to hum. You may have seen the humming sound. And then it goes really loud from lower voice, and then it increases the sound like I cannot do that because my throat is damaged and it's not functioning well. I have a serious medical condition. So you go with the lower voice, you remain in that lower voice, this humming sound, you remain in there for 30 seconds, and then you gradually increase it. When it gets to that peak, you must have seen oscillation. When it gets to that peak, if you see that peak, that top, when it reaches the top of the voice, stay there for 30 seconds, and then you gradually slow down that sound, that humming sound, and get to that bass and settle down slowly. And then again you start with 30 seconds and you pitch it high. What are we doing here? This is oscillation progressive sound therapy. When the child closes their eyes and they do this, the prefrontal cortex, the waves will start to control the frontal cortex. And when they start to control from the frontal cortex, it's a great exercise that the child hyperness will reduce with time. You have to give some time, and then it will reduce. This is a very good way to do it. Another way to do this is guided meditation. What type of guided meditation is good for the children? That is guided meditation. When they close their eyes, they should concentrate on that light inside. So you got to make the child follow that light when they close their eyes. And when they follow that, you got to take them to a direction where they feel relaxed and happy. This is a very good way to open up frontal cortex. Very, very good exercise, effective exercise. In this guided meditation, you can add characters in that light. If you follow the light, it will take you to a place where you can play with your favorite characters. So follow the light. So you take them in that light to that place inside their head where they're being really happy, independent, playful, relaxed. And that is where the child will start to control. The realization will begin from here. But it should begin with light. Follow the light meditation. This should be done every day because this is manual exercise. Should be done. Art focus activity. ADHD has a really strong imagination power. ADHD children's. So don't stop them. Enhance their imagination power. Give them those part of piece of paper and let them start to draw things. Even if it's really disrupted at the beginning, give them time. Give them time. And also make them join few more other people along with what he wants to do, whether it's playing with the toys, imagine things with the toys, or with the art. Allow and increase that part. And if he continues to learn and do things, the brain will start to enhance. And that's what we want. We want the growth factor. Allow that learning naturally to increase. Then comes avoid gadgets at night. We do not want the child to play with any gadgets, with TV or whatever, because you know that the control functions are weak. We do not want the child to be having problems in control and, creating hyperness at night. We want the child to sleep at night. So we need to avoid gadgets at the beginning. Also, increase of complex carbs. I've talked about those vegetables and fruits. Increase that at night. Introduce them at night. Allow them to, feel that relaxation in the environment. Dim the light. And also along with this, apart from gadget, large picture story books at night. Very, very good idea. Give them the relaxation. Open the book. There has to be calm, sweet pictures in there, big pictures. So when you introduce that pictures to them, then there'll be a release of melatonin inside their brain, which means that melatonin and serotonin will calm the child. That picture should be soothing effect. Large pictures and small letters where you read the stories and you tell them, calming pictures and calming stories in that bed. And also introducing along with it reward related activities, which means if you're going to do this activity now, the next morning I will give you this. This whole week, if you study well, then in the end of that week I will reward you with something good. Because that reward is disrupted, we have to do this task to the children's. We have to manually give the idea of, I'll give you this reward if you sleep now, intentionally. So that's how the child will improve their conditions. We have to focus on reward-related activities. I'll also talk in depth about this, the strategies on reward-related activities. I'm going to end here now. But in the future, I'm going to talk on specifically on that because we want the child to be in control. So reward-related activities is important for ADHD. So that we come to the end of these sections. I hope you have understood as much as I could do to make you realize on ADHD. However, my research and videos will continue on ADHD and other different ones. But I'd like to say something, that if you have any questions, please email us on preciousbrainlab@gmail.com. We'll possibly give you all the answers to the questions. And please subscribe. I see a lot of people watching, but very few of them are subscribing. But my watch hours are long. It's big. A lot of people are watching it, but they're not subscribing. Please help to grow this channel. I'm doing this for you. I'm not asking for more than this. This is a very hard work. This is not something that I want to benefit you. Subscribe. I'm doing it for you. This is why I'm here. The suffering is big. Please subscribe. I'm requesting you. Please subscribe. If you're going to subscribe, you'll benefit for you. This channel is made for you to give you the information. I will come up with more videos. This is just the beginning. So I'm going to end here, and I will see you in the next video. This is, I'm not making any profit from this channel. Neither I'm collaborative with anybody. I'm not even getting funding from the outside for my research work, whatever I do. No funding. I'm doing it on my own. I'm requesting you to please subscribe. That one thing I'm asking, and nothing else. So bless you all. And may you have an abundant, sweet life. Sending you so very much love, light, and healing. I will see you on the next video from a new perspective. Till then, take care. Stay healthy. Keep smiling. And lots of love sending out to you all. God bless you all.